the best of times, you walk me through my darkest days. Why must I turn around? I ask myself. This just ain't fair, so hard to bear. I'm not really sure these days, You walk me, you talk to me. Hard
A big welcome back, Míle Fáilte Arás to Gaeilge Weekly. This is episode number 95, Seo Agran Iver Anocha Cuig. First of all, I'm not going to be speaking about the power cut that happens here in Spain on this version of the podcast. Ní bhaid mé glárts faoin Gearradh Cúig de a Harlan seo sa Spáin inné, well, agus mis sé tafadú Harlan inné. As I record, it happened yesterday. I spoke all about that literally during the power cut on a recording I did on my phone, which has become the Níos Simplí version this week. So, Gobunasuk basically on the Níos Simplí version this week, on Leagan Níos Simplí, on Tachtan. So I was speaking completely and only about power cut, and it was actually recorded during the power cut. Half of the May on Leagan Sin Iri on Gearradh Cúig da agus ní rá mé ach ag glárts faoin Gearradh Cúig da one. But on the Níos Simplí, or the lot simpler on Leagan Dhaoine, the bilingual version, this version on Leagan seo, I'm going to be speaking about the same thing I spoke about on the full version, just to keep a bit of consistency. So by me glárts faoin rud chéanna around me ag glárts faoi on Leagan Omlán on Gyan seo. One thing I will say that's a bit weird is the three versions of Gaeilge Weekly this week have been recorded on three different microphones. On Trí Leagan to Gaeilge Weekly on Tachtan. So rinne mé na tafadaí trí mic zerfriúil. Why? Cén fá? Well, I did it on normal mic. I have the feabhas, I think the brand is. Captain brand attire. On mic feabhas on Loon in the full version. Then the power cut happened, so I couldn't do that because I didn't have access to the laptop. Ní ra mé on a laptop, no river glona úsáid. So then I had to use my phone, and I thought it added something as well to have to use the phone during the power cut. One, speaking about the power cut, ag glárts faoin Gearradh Cúig da Iri on Gearradh Cúig da agus ag buint úsáid as on phone. And now my brand new fancy mic. Hopefully you can hear a difference. If not, then it probably defeats the purpose. Actually, Gearradh bids in the few monowil Sivalan on Sirfriocht a Hostal, but I've got a brand new, quite cool and much better mic here, a Rode, or Rhoda, whatever it's called, Rode, the Scandinavian brand. I've got one of those new mics, the mic na sin nua agam, and it's going to be the mic I'm going to be using for everything on Learn Irish Online going forward. Shot on mic, bheits mé buint úsáid as a gachrad as seo amach. So, anyway, the topic for, well, certainly this podcast and the full version of the podcast this week on topic lahai inyo, an Leagan so, then fod creile agus comhpháirtíocht sin an Leagan Omlán an Tachtan seo. That is how Learn Irish Online started, or how I actually got into teaching Irish. I don't know, did I ever speak of this? I maybe spoke a bit about it at maybe the first episode or the second episode of Gaeilge Weekly, which Lord knows what that sounded like. I wouldn't like to go back and listen now. Near liam.learnirishonline agus éisteacht on it. But it was actually done on the same mic that I was using up until yesterday, so the audio might not be too bad. Chance like my an audio roll í marall go raibh I buint úsáid as an mic céanna mar a bhí mé gotí inné, but I would not like to go back and listen to it near Watlam Dollarás agus éisteacht leis. Like anything in life, the first few versions are never that good, because sa léon rud sa saoil an chéad cúpla leagan te an ná normally níl siad ró wa. But in general, well, firstly, even if I have spoken about it before, a lot has happened since then with Learn Irish Online. Few must relay go raibh mé ag labhairt faoi seo roimhe. Tá lán rudaí tar éis tarlú I ré an ama sin. A lot of things have happened during that time since I spoke about it, you know, just as Learn Irish Online was starting when I started the podcast around the same time. Nuair bhí Learn Irish Online ag tosaigh an tám céanna around mé ag tosaigh leis an budcréile le Gaeilge Weekly. So I suppose even though Learn Irish Online didn't start until I think it's February 28th or March 1st, 2023, after Nuachta Las Fihid to bhí fiara Gábhils Fihid 3, no fiú an chéad lá me Morta Gaeilge Weekly. I'm not quite sure. It was the Wednesday, whatever day that was. Céadaoin and some kin law. Gajira gach is coming. So I suppose really to start the story is Stoilm hun on scale a husu Mars Gart. You have to go back to the 20th of July. Well, even before that, actually. We'll go back to January 2020. Caimid Thosaigh go mBéarla Gaeilge is a fe. So I studied journalism. I didn't study Irish or podcasting or content. I suppose podcasting linked to journalism. Now that I think about it, tá put creil tóireacht san an focal. We'll say buinte leis an éasca. It's connected to journalism earthly in some way. But I was studying journalism down at UL, the University of Limerick. I'm from Galway. Is Scáilh me ach drastal me sin an Ulscoil Limni. It's your Gaeilge Hochtag agus Gaeilge is a fehadó. So just as I was coming into the end of my second year, agus mis ag tataisteach chuig deireadh ma dar líon an sin, I had to organise a co-op, as they call it. They're basically an internship or kind of work experience for the following year. A lot of courses in UL anyway, I think around Ireland, but especially in UL, a long coursey timpeall here in Cohoriha in Ulscoil Limni. Your third year is generally off campus. So living to our campus done through blin. What do you do? Well, it depends. Normally, in my case, this was a fairly standard thing. It was kind of the norm, is that the first semester was co-op, as they called it, just an internship, going working somewhere for 6 months. There's another word they have first, but I can't remember. Tá focail eile cosúla taithí ibre no internacht no aon rud cosúla sin. And you have to work obviously somewhere that's connected to your field. You know, caithú a bheith ag obair áitsaigh and will buinte le the thionscáil, which are kind of industry or field. So I myself went off to Barcelona. But how did I go to Barcelona in the end? Well, you had two options. We got ráite. So one, you could do it through the university. So you basically gave them your CV. So ceanháin bhí tú an a dhéanamh tríd an ollscoil. So bhí tú an the CV ó thuirt. You could give them your CV and your cover letter. They would send it out, in my case, to the Irish Daily Star, the Irish Daily Mirror, Spin Southwest, Galway BFM, agus áit na difriúil timpeall na tíre buinte leis an éasca. Different places around the country connected or associated with journalism. But I was kind of thinking at the time, you know, I'd kind of realised after my first 2 years, my first year and a half, even at that point, bhí me tar éis tuairt bhí zara tar éis stocha ma chéad bhlín go le. Ní rá mé ró chafa leis an éasca agus ní rá mé in láire a géirí a bheith imime éasca agus mis ag fág an na hallscoile ag an cúpla blin. So I decided I didn't really want to be a journalist as I was leaving, you know, university in a few years' time. So I decided, well, wouldn't it be better to get something kind of a bit different out of the internship? Nach méisteach deas an rud ag an beagalín difriúil a bhain samach as an internacht. And one of those things was to live abroad. Wouldn't that be cool? I knew I was going to get to do it for the Erasmus later on in the year, at the start of 2021. Bhí isagam grá mé an lán, or go méich mé an lán a dhéanamh níos dé níos sa bhlín ag tús Gaeilge féin leis an internacht. I kind of decided I was probably going to Pamplona for the internship. So what I did, I sent out a load of, you had a second option, the an dara rawa ad, to basically do it yourself. You just had to, at the end, come to the university and say, right, I've got this placement, here's their number, you can ring them, here's my boss, it's connected to journalism, plus your buinte leis an éasca, ciao. Or adios, I'll see you in 6 months or a year. Feici mé ag an CV nó ag an blinahu. So that's what I did, and around January or February 2020, I sent out a load of CVs and cover letters to literally any magazine, radio station, so Iarslaur, Sláistin Radio, any television station, news channel in Gnáthleagan, in Sláistin Telefíse, anywhere, any podcast in Podcrella, anywhere vaguely related to journalism. Éonáit le buins le acu. Le ein gnéastócha den éasca, any aspect of journalism. So after a while, I think I got 3 replies in total. Agus heol me mach lán riomhas. They sent out a lot of emails, certainly at least 50 or lied Quaga. And I got a few replies. I got one from Rome, a place in Rome, so for me ceann amháin on Rove, but said if you don't have Italian, might be complicated. Muna bhfuil an adála agad seans go mbeidh sé beagadín dachar, go mbeidh sé casta, might be a bit difficult or complicated. And another one from France, they said you don't need to have French, but we can only offer you 2 months here in Limits now, not Galvi, a Hortstitch on shot, and I needed, I think, at least 5 or 6 for my degree. Actually, I think I needed 6, but I only did 5 in the end. Ceapan grá féidir séhí ag tastáim ag mBéarla mé ach cúig sa dearú. But I got, funnily enough, actually, I sent an email to a place called Barcelona Metropolitan. So heol me ceann got there ran in Barcelona Metropolitan, and I didn't hear anything back. And for some reason, I still have no idea why, fós níl clú agam cén fá a chur mé riomhas teile chuigiú, why I sent them another riomhas, another email. But I decided to, and sure enough, after a day or 2, I got a reply back on the second email. So it's funny, actually, those kind of sliding doors moments, those moments of faith, if you want to put it like that. Agus just an chuí a bhín rudí ag tarlú, an chuí oibríonn rudí amach sa dearú, the things that, or the way that things work out in the end. They got back to me, and then, you know, the normal stuff. We had a call, and they asked me to write an article to see how good my writing was. You know, dúirt siad lom, okay, caiitú an talt seo a scríb, onas go mbeidh muid san an feicáil cé chun má agus bhfuil tú an scríb, how good you can write. And it works, you know, in the end. I decided, yeah, you can come. It's quite informal, you can come whenever you want, and we'll give you 5 or 6 months. It'll be unpaid, but it won't be too much work. Níl go an pá ach ní bhaid mór an ibre Gaeilge. They weren't lying. There was not much near Ginson Spraga. There was not much work involved with it, only an hour or 2 really a day. Ní rach beidir or chlig nó chlá or chlig gach lá. And so July 2020, we won't get into the pandemic, but I actually got to go when I wanted to go. Bhíonn chance agam dul an tám around mBéarla dul sa dearú. Why? I think mainly because Spain opened up so fast at first, then they locked down again loads of times, but I got in anyway before they locked down, and they opened up their borders. You know, Dusculty and Sauron, Sus Riv, Ahonig, Misha. I think it was about a month before I arrived, they opened up. And I remember being really excited the night Pedro Sanchez, the Prime Minister, and still to this day, the Prime Minister, he was talking all about the power cut yesterday. We say Glorts with Garrett Cook, and he was advising Cam. We say Glorts, you know, Kaitu. Fannach Suchar and so by Ruddy Kirklore. I remember the day he came out and said we're reopened for business. Foreigners come in because they rely so much on tourists, being to the bra on made sin tourist story. And I got to go. So, long story short, I was in Barcelona for 5 months, wasn't getting paid, nearest the towards Podum, which is fine because there was very little work involved. It's more so just getting to live in Barcelona for 5 months. That was the cool thing. Bhíonn chance agam huntacht an Shogaji and Spawn, who's sun shin go Barcelona, or Fred Cúg and improve my skills on the language. Feabhas a chur mo chuid Spanish agus mar sinja. And agus I remember at the time thinking, right, well, I still need to make a bit of money here just to help me out a bit because I'm not making a proper wage. Fós tá beaganín agad when I was getting a grant fi make fáil Déantas from the EU, which you always get when you're on Erasmus or you're abroad on an internship. Má tá tú thar lear internacht. But I needed a bit more, so I said, well, the easy thing to do would be to teach English, but so much competition with English and the pay is so low. I have another language, Thosaigh. Why wouldn't I try to make that work? Because I remember a few years before that, my brother had said to me, oh, I know someone teaching Irish, you wouldn't believe how much demand there is for it. Like, ní chairtá an méid sin éileamh atá air. And so I said, okay, well, I may as well give this a go. Why not? I've got loads of time. When I say to give it a go, I'm not saying, oh, to build a big business and make it, my main job and the biggest Irish podcast in the world in a few years and put Gaeilge Weekly more down, to linn. Not at all. It was, I'll do 4 or 5 lessons a week, just like some people do grinds at home almost, on chuid a bhín daoine in grinds or an area, just to make an extra 100, 150 a week to help me out. That's it. I'll finish at Christmas, which I did. I was surprised by how much demand there was during that time. But then at Christmas, I stopped, went home, then went to Pamplona. Didn't keep it up in Pamplona. Didn't need to. And University in Céadaoin. Enjoyed my Erasmus in Pamplona. moved back to Ireland for the last year of university, and then towards the end of the final year of university, agus misheag dridsam le dzera of lín Yaranuk ag an old school, I decided, right, I'm going to go back to Barcelona. I loved it there so much. I loved it out in Spain. You know, hatan say mBéarla am a vet am wit and shin spawn. I'm going to go back to my hundularash and enjoy it out there. Agus an tatna bhaint as my chud sama an shin, and you know, go out for a year or two and then see where I stand. Do I want to get a proper job? I'll just do something kind of part-time or use the savings that I have. Probably had 2,000 or 3,000 saved up going over, bits of grow gáhíle and 3 agam in my van kickdul all an sin, which doesn't last too long. But I kind of went over around January or February that year. Who my Arthur Mialler, my Fiara, Eglam Shin, still had a few months of study left, but I could do it online. Post we couple of me, since that's her falk, I'll go mac female on a yano Erlina, and then graduated, went traveling for the summer for a few months. And I was basically during that time back in Barcelona, I started teaching again, kind of for a similar reason, just to make a bit of money. Just some buglín argaty to help me out on Carolum. And kind of something happened just before I went traveling. I got 1 or 2 more students, and I was really surprised again by the demand. And it actually got to the point where I was doing 10 or 11 lessons a week. Fi mi deno hartar gach no éisteacht gach seachtain. And I kind of realized, hold on, if I could just get 2 or 3 more students, this would be a full-time job. I'd be making enough to live here for the next few years. And I'm not trying to make this about money. It's just obviously money. That's what it's based on. It's just something to bring in a bit of money on the side. Fi se sol mar rud ag an beag chun buglín argad a horteteach an thief. But I remember at the time thinking, right, I'm going to go traveling. But when I come back, if I take 2 or 3 more students, I could do this for next year. And again, not going to be my job forever, but for the next year or two, or for blin the Gaeilge by se sol mar fost. And then after that, I can move back home and do something proper with my life by min an dularash gahéir and no rudagin cearta le my hail. So when I came back, took a few more students on. That was the peak of my lessons back when I used to do a lot of lessons. Sheer na bhí mid a lán ceachtainna. I was doing about 16 lessons a week. At one point, we made hartar sé ceachtaigh. Ag pointe, it was not fun. People will say, oh, that's only 16 hours of work, but it's different because it's not like if you do an 8-hour workday today, Thosaigh 8 so you don't have to be on for every single minute. You can kind of almost not daydream, but go into autopilot, or you're taking this break or speaking to this person in large session. Then show with teaching, if you're teaching an hour lesson, you're switched on, you're honest for that hour. And I didn't have much experience teaching, so it was tricky. Near on made sin tahiagam ag múna. So someone might ask me a question I would not know the answer to, or I would know the answer, but I wouldn't know how to explain it. Beidir, you know, churhocht den ag an ceistarm, agus bhí an fragar agam, ach ní rá mi cínsa cin chuí a bhínu. So that was, yeah, challenging, but it was good fun. Visa spiel, and I think because of that I'm a better teacher today. mBéarla sin is moontor about níos fearr and and it was nice. And I suppose one common theme here that might be coming up, thema one, thema chutínta will exact an éasca and so both girly generalta, but especially on this episode today, gohoria an agron so is that I suppose I don't like playing by other people's rules. Ní maithlam a bheith ag imirts faoi na rialacha atá leachomach ag duine ag an eile that someone else has set out. So, even then, okay, I'd prefer just to do a load of hours and be working quite hard at this, but it be my own setup and my own thing and be able to do it in my own way. Gachar the yellow in my stíl hain agus in my valach hain, instead of working for a school where it's less hours, but they're telling me you have to teach like this, you have to do this lesson, you have to work with this person. I could pick and choose students. It was better. I could pick and choose how I would teach them. I could teach them in a way that I saw fit. Bhí mise an lán iad a bhúnú in malach or orúnach in my hirmse, in my opinion. So I remember doing that, then getting towards the end of 2022, as will be at this time, éisteacht chuig dzera gábhils fé dó, I decided, or I kind of realised, I suppose, more so than decided, hug me fitzara, ní small now, roundy me, hug me fitzara. The issue here is, I'm going to go back home for Christmas. Tumission dolarash lion nuluk, marhampla, just as an example, and I won't be working for 10 days, like a lot of people, like a lot of teachers. I'll take about 10 days off, so la lan moon street to me on there, dead law, I'll see her, and I'm not going to earn a penny during that time. Numisha hon pingin rua all ire ala machine. Because, of course, if you're not doing any lessons, how are you going to make money? It's not like you're getting paid a monthly wage from in here. So I realised, okay, I'm going to have to do something more here, but I'm really enjoying working in the Irish space. The main bunch fear hatnah as a bheith gobar sa spás Gaeilge stócha. Is spás na Gaeilge. And I decided, okay, what if I made a course or something? Someone said to me, what if you did like flashcards or something, or had something that you could make and then you could sell from then on? Rodéigan gométón an chrothú, no dhaoine agus iní sin fechtón an a dhiú. After that, you could sell it. So I decided to make this course with my friends, my housemate, my English housemate, who was the person who came up with the name LearnIrishOnline. Sin an duine a tháinig sús leis an tanam LearnIrishOnline. I wanted to call it Easy Gaeilge, and he said, no, call it something, does what it says in the chain, great SEO, you're very lucky no one's taking it. Tá an tá deargart nach bhfuil sé tócha ó chuné gan eile, call it LearnIrishOnline, it'll be a lot better. Chur an tanam LearnIrishOnline agus by sé ó bhád níos fearr. So we made this course together. He filmed it because he's a videographer, so been sessioning déanú Fishani. We made this course for months on course the show, and I put it out, and I kind of realized then when it's done, hold on, I actually need to put this somewhere. And again, I suppose doing things my own way, déanú rudí im stíl hain agus gan a bheith géirí, bheith bra dhaoine eile, not wanting to be depending on other people, quite an independent person, duna soch. Now spach me a fairly stubborn person as well, duna soch Céadaoin me as well, and those two kind of go hand in hand often. Been an dá rud sin le feicáil go minic is na daoine céine. But I decided, okay, I don't want to put it up on Udemy or these course hosting sites because they'll be taking a big cut, and again, they'll change the price, and I want to do it my own way, and if it fails, feck it. Must really, go tepan norm sin cearcolóir is cuma. Tarlíonn rudaí cosúla sin sa sell. I'll be able to try something else or start again or improve it by Milan rudaí gan eile, And I suppose when you're that age, I mean, I'm still only 24 now, I was 22 at the time. But even those 2 or 3 years makes a difference because you really don't overthink things, or you really don't see the bad consequences that can happen or the failures that can happen when you're that age. You don't have any fear in the Vina Nagla ad. I suppose I would see some of the more fear. Some more of the fear nowadays. Ceapan, go bheith fá písnis modes and agla or na druch rudaí a harloach that would happen nowadays. Slot on your But I don't know, different story altogether, and that's a topic for a different podcast. In topic la hi putcréile difriúil gan daut. So I set up this course, put it out, the Bun course of Gaeilge, which is still over there. Some of you might have done it. Sean School say Déanta chuid. When you see that course and you see the recordings from it, LearnIrishOnline wasn't a thing then, hadn't even come up with the name at that point, and started LearnIrishOnline, as I said, the end of February, the start of March 2023. Har said Sarah mi fiara, tus mi morta gcomhpháirtíocht hosí me LearnIrishOnline. And I kind of realized after a few weeks, okay, yeah, but now how are you going to tell people there's a course? You can put loads of posts up on Facebook, but you're going to have to make a LearnIrishOnline Facebook page and then make this and make that. And then I thought, after a while, I may as well just make this the brand, put the classes kind of through the brand, set up an email address, and there's so many things involved. Cai tú cúntas rifost a dhéanamh, cai tú sivirgilín a dhéanamh ar nói. It has to be working properly. Domain name, you have to get that. Cai tú domain name a cheannach on sin Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, nátanella. And after a few weeks, I decided, right, if I want to get people to buy the course, what if I'm always kind of, my attitude is always, what if I just do a tiny bit more of this or a tiny bit more of this, and it grows and grows and grows. I guess sometimes it becomes too much work. Even seeing that on the Patreon last week, on Patreon, Sachtans Catcha, I've decided, I'm going to put out a transcript now, or not a transcript, but a list of all the most challenging vocab. Tá mé chun lista stórfocail a churmach leis an stórfocail is Jacra so fud Craila, and that's available on Patreon. But that's another thing I have to do every week. But I always kind of think, just do a bit more of this, and things keep on growing. That's been my attitude, which sometimes has left me with a lot of work to do, but that's okay. Orintha fágan sa sin mé le lán obair le déanamh, lán ibre le déanamh. But that's okay, sin cearcolóir, that happens from time to time. Tarlíonn sa sin ó am go. And I did a YouTube video, which is still up there, probably the first video I ever uploaded on LearnIrishOnline, apart from maybe the ad for the course, Seachas Spades on Fógra, don Chorsa. And that was top 10 mistakes or most common mistakes I see as an Irish teacher. And once I put that out, I said, I kind of like doing these videos and podcasts and I like to get better at them. Always had this idea for a podcast with kind of simpler Irish agóní bhíon smuoinmh se agam maidir le podcréile le Gaeilge Níos Simplí. And so I said, well, why not give it a go? And again, I suppose all these things were things I liked. I loved watching YouTube for years. I loved listening to podcasts even more so. I guess the podcréiltaí níos mó na YouTube. So I always kind of had, I suppose, that eagerness to start a podcast like a lot of men nowadays. A lot of people, but especially men, I think go hurry of fear so like in the show bhí fun podcréile a dhéanamh podcréile hosu. And I really enjoyed, doing the first recordings, and I suppose it just went from there. I won't go into every show we've done in the Patreon and the membership. The Patreon started, I think, August 2023. Yeah, so it's funny looking back now how quickly everything happens. Mín an nullag gábhílas féadó ag teachtú leis an smuoinmh an cúrsa from December 2022, coming up with the idea for a course to then within 9 months, not even 8 months, tíbh siad 8 mí branda a bheith agam to have a brand and a membership system and a podcast and a YouTube agus gach ar. But I think when you're passionate about something or they're passionate or and I was passionate about so many things, the Irish of course and Gaeilge, but as well as that chomhpháirtíocht sin podcasts and YouTube and creating content and creating a brand and growing a business and helping people, I guess, and simplifying things for people, because it's frustrating for me looking at all these different articles online where you'd read about Tishaginiduk, for example, or Mochaniluk, or the perfect tense, and they'd use all these prefix and subordinate clause and direct and indirect and relative objects. People don't know what that means. Most people nilasaku kadata igest leshin. So I said, this is so much easier. It's just if it's a noun, use this. If it's a verb, use this, for example. If you're using go versus a, which do you use? Well, it's just, in this case, that, in this case, that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a lot simpler than I think a lot of people make it out to be. Because a lot of people are linguists, a lot of daoine tá siad gafa leis an teagolaíocht, and they, I suppose, because they understand all that terminology, and I'm probably guilty of this sometimes as well, or into being misha, ceantoch so freshen, but because they understand that terminology, subordinate clause and relative, indirect object, all these things, adverb, adjective, they kind of try and use that when explaining things instead of simplifying it and giving it in layman's terms. It's like a priest. Your priest shouldn't speak in theological terms. Ní cheart go méid chun sagart ag leabhart le termí díochachta agus i gcóin ag buintú so just focal casta buinte leis an religiún, complicated words related to religion, should be speaking in a way that the pobl, the community, an slua, the crowd, can understand. We'll see ná a hiiscint. So I suppose that's where we are today, and I just realised I'd never really spoken about it on the podcast. Ní raibh méid leabhart faoi ribh ar an podcréile around the same time I did the membership, started the membership August 2023. I decided to move down to Seville. Rinne mé chinneadh an teachtain seo go Seville, and I've spoken loads about Seville on the podcast before, but yeah, very happy that I'm down here and that I have such a cool job. Gohfuil post cool agam, and that I have the opportunity to work where I want, that I can work in Ireland if I want to, or go to Italy like I did last month, go in an dulg dínadal agus obair hall an sin, má tá mé géirí. And yeah, I'm really enjoying that I get to help people, or hopefully that I'm helping people speak Irish and learn Irish in an easier way, whatever your goal is, that it just becomes a bit more fun, a bit simpler, Bígí níos speisialta, Bígí níos simplí, and that people are improving their Irish gohfuil daoine an feabhas a chur ar a gcuid Gaeilge. Helps in some way, carryha I Malachégan, because of the work, I suppose, I've done, or because of the content I've made, Marielle, earn content the Déanta. So that's it. That's the story of how I got here today, or that's the story of how Learn Irish Online more so has got here today. Sin on scale, maidir le chinchuí ó Learn Irish Online an áit ó bhfuil sé inniu. Hopefully the audio on this podcast sounded pretty good. I'll have to have a mess around with the edit as well and my audio settings to get it perfect, so it might take a few weeks chance go dóigh sé cúpla seachtain, but I think it's really cool. And I also have you can't see me, of course, ní féidir to hear leat my echo, but I have the headphones on now, like a studio setup, so I feel really professional and I can hear myself back through the earphones. Tá an me hain a chostal ar éast tríd na cluiseán, so hopefully it sounds good. Let me know if you think there's a noticeable difference from the normal sound quality. Inis dom mátá stocha difriocht sa chaidán, difriocht útmán an torts fao deara maidir leis an chaidán fuma. that is it for this week, guys. Everything here good in Seville. I know I said I wouldn't mention the power cut, but no issues. Well, no, there was an issue for about, how long was it? About 12 hours, 15 hours in my case. Came back about 3 o'clock on Tuesday morning. Honnig Sharash Harther 3 o'clock, mods into Morts. So all good, no major issues for me at least, and have cash and food and water and all that. So no panic, Líon, panic. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. Míle buíochas as Gaeilge. Speak to you next week again. Hopefully all 3 versions will be on the fancy new mic. Le Cunidé by Gnáthleagan and Fut Grella Air on mic nua. Goodbye and God bless. Slán agus Bannacht.
What must have turned around?